but she was so satisfied with my depiction of her that she came back later when I was in the middle of drawing someone else and licked my.
I'm Adam Walson, and for the past 25 years, I've branded and marketed world-renowned athletes, personalities, and brands. Here, we'll share lessons learned and tell stories earned. This is the Double Down Podcast. And welcome back to the Double Down Podcast. So excited for my next guest, artist, entrepreneur, father, friend, colleague, partner, Nolan Harris. So excited to have you today. I've been looking forward to this conversation for quite a while since we got it set up. You and I, we talk every day, and I always look forward to that as well. But this is a little special. We have so much to talk about. Thank you so much for joining us on the Double Down Podcast today.
Thank you for having me. I know we've been trying to work it out for a while now. I'm glad we could finally make it happen.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Well, here we are. We made it happen.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I'm so used to our conversations being limited to a quick text here, a quick text there, quick little blurb on the phone in traffic.
Yep.
It's nice to have some solid time with you.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's so funny you should say that, because when I started doing the podcast, I was on the phone with one of my good buddies yesterday, and I said, hey, this is an excuse just to hang out with my friends for an hour or two and just catch up with them, because look, the reality is our lives are so busy these days, especially Q4 for most of us, right? Things are crazy. It's, we have to get Christmas gifts for our friends and family. We have to take care of our, our career stuff, obviously. And in Q4, people are wrapping things up, and no pun intended, but, quite literally, it's just absolutely crazy. So this is awesome. It gives me pause to hang out with good friends and honestly learn more about them. Right. I'm sure I'm going to learn so much about you today, and everybody else that's listening is going to learn just awesome stuff, I'm sure. You've been doing this stuff for quite a while now, so I'm sure you're chock full of nuggets.
I got a few nuggets. Yeah. You might have to pry them away from me, but I got a few for you.
Awesome. Well, like I said, man, I'm looking forward to this, and I would just love to jump right into it. It seems that I only had this is our second go at this, so we're still learning here. But I think a great place to start would be, I'd love to hear where you grew up, man. Where did you grow up?
So this is a reminder for me, not that I would ever forget, but I have a tattoo of the state of Ohio on me.
Oh, why Ohio? Did we ever leave Ohio? Do you say that
exactly.
to yourself?
I actually never ask myself that. I'm pretty happy out here in the Pacific Northwest. I try to get back to Ohio every once in a while to see my family, my friends, to take my daughter so she can get a feel for my upbringing and how I came into this world and how I became so demented in my life. But I grew up in Ohio.
Beautifully demented, by the way.
Yes, thank you so much. Let's see here. So I was born in Ohio near Cincinnati. And I had a single mom. So she was in college for most of my youth. And then once she got out of college, she got married when I was 5 years old, and things just started to springboard in my life from there. They always promoted me in my artistic endeavors.
That's great.
It was. I'm so grateful for it. I'm so thankful, and they did make sacrifices in their lives to give me the opportunities to gain some traction artistically and to learn some new things. And, I had wonderful grandparents that also helped me along the way, one of which was a very talented artist himself, my grandfather. Oh, wow. And he's the guy that introduced me to comics for the first time.
So cool. How old were you?
I was 5 years old. So I grew up on the same cartoons as you did, G.I. Joe, He-Man, Transformers, all that fun stuff. But once I saw my first comic book, my grandfather's name was Alan. They called him Big Al. Everywhere he went, people thought he was the general manager. He was a very commanding personality. So everywhere he showed up, they would say, "Oh, hello, Mr. Bannister. What can we do for you today?" But he would drag me along on a lot of his trips, which included the grocery store, the liquor store, and the comic book store. And I always looked forward to
not necessarily in that order.
Depending on the day. Never a weekday, mind you. Always a Saturday night. But we would go to the comic book store, Parker's Comics and Records, and we would peruse the trading cards, which I was really big in, and then we'd go over to the comic book section, and I saw a DC comic, a Superman comic book. That was 1986, and it immediately popped. It was Man of Steel #1. And at the time, they're rebooting all of the superheroes for the modern age. So you could literally just dive in from scratch, and there's this entire new mythos connected to your favorite superheroes. For me, it was Superman. And the cover had him just the chest and the hands. And you can see the Superman logo, and that just immediately popped. So I got it, and I was immediately transfixed by the artwork. And after that, I just couldn't stop. It totally drew you in. No pun intended. Yeah.
So that leads me to my next question. At what age did you realize, you know what? Maybe I have a little artistic talent here. How did you start? How did you even start? Were you inspired by your grandfather?
He definitely cultivated it to a certain extent, but he didn't draw very much unless I really pestered him. He worked for IBM at the time, so he was already busy with other things. But for me personally, I would just keep drawing these characters like Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, all these guys. But it really kind of dawned on me when I was in second grade, and I found out what the word solicitation meant.
Okay.
And I don't think that's a word very many second graders learn.
No, that's a strange one.
Yeah, well, I was offering my talents to fellow students for certain items in their lunchbox that were a little more appealing than the ones I came with.
Like a blow pop or something?
Yeah, blow pops, fruit roll-ups, all this, Capri Suns, all that fun stuff that my mom and dad wouldn't give me.
That is amazing. You were quite literally an entrepreneur in the second grade. You were trading your talents for treats.
I was trading my talents for diabetes. Exactly. That was exactly what I was doing. But I was pulled aside very nicely outdoors. I still remember it like it was yesterday. And it was my principal. He pulled me aside and he said, "Nolan, I'm afraid you cannot offer your artwork for money or for lunch. That's called solicitation. You can't do that in a school setting. It's not healthy." And it clicked. It made sense. But I got to tell you, man, this is when Spider-Man had the black costume.
Yeah.
And these kids were just going bonkers over it. And it was so easy to draw. So easy to draw. Didn't have to do any definition or anything.
But I'm like, at what? Because obviously it dawned on you, and when the kids were, willing to give up their fruit roll-ups for just a little piece of Nolan. When you were drawing, was there like an adult that came to you and said, "Hey, you're better than an average kid at this particular age"? So it's second grade. What are you, 6 years old?
Yeah, I was 6 or 7 around that point in time. I definitely had art teachers that would, I don't know if and it's not necessarily good as an artist for someone to come up and tell you, "Oh, wow, you're amazing. You're way better than most kids at this age." But they definitely helped cultivate my talent set. They definitely gave me projects that were more catered to me and my skill set versus what the other kids got.
Yeah.
And, at that age, every kid's got their thing, right? Like some kid might be awesome at kickball. Some kid might be really good with music or singing or acting or what have you. And I was always that art kid.
Yeah.
Which, that wasn't a self-designated label. That was just what was given to me at the time. But, as we grow older, we try to gain more skills and become more fully formed. But
awesome. Awesome that you found your passion so young. And, it's funny because, my story is similar in a weird way. When I was, I was always into art as well. And I loved to draw. And oddly enough, as a kid, I figured out if you bought a box of blow pops for $30 and, you know, put them in your book bag and sold whatever, 4 for $1, 5 for $1, or, one for a quarter, you could make a lot of money.
Yeah, dude.
So when I was in like the 5th or 6th grade, man, I was slinging blow pops like nobody's business. So it's very funny to hear that you had a similar journey in that you were, you kind of tapped into, I don't want to say commerce, but trade, right?
Right. Yeah.
Trade for talent.
Yeah. Supply and demand. People wanted a drawing, and I was happy to give it to them, but they had to give something to me as well.
That's unbelievable. That is so cool. That the kids, because I would assume it was the kids' idea. You didn't come up with that idea to trade for snacks, or was that your idea?
No, the first few, it was the kids. After that, I kind of got the gist of it. And I was like, this is something I can do here. I can make this happen. But, I learned my lesson fairly quickly, and I just continued to focus on the things that I was passionate about art-wise. I was really into drawing superheroes.
Yeah.
Getting into 3rd grade is when I got into wrestling, which I know you and I connected immediately in that respect.
Totally. Yeah.
I'm even repping your boy over here.
I see him. Ooh, yeah, bro.
Yeah, a little macho madness.
I love it.
With me every day.
Which, oddly enough, we can, the macho man is the man that binds us. He's the glue that brought us together, quite literally. I'll kind of give some color for some people. So I was just perusing the interwebs, as we do. I was on Instagram, and I don't follow many hashtags. I want to start following more, because I'll be honest, following hashtags is infinitely more fun than following some people.
I agree.
Because you discover a lot more, and you make friends. I mean, this is a perfect example. So I follow the Macho Man hashtag because of course I do. And somebody else had reposted your artwork, and it was of Macho Man. And I was blown away by it. I reached out to the guy, and I'm like, did you do this? Because he had posted a bunch of your pieces.
Yeah.
And I was like, did you do this? It's like, we need to talk, dude. And he's like, no, it's this guy. And I was like, oh man. I was like, great. Because typically, if you reach out to somebody that, honestly has the level of talent that you have, in my opinion, you reach out to those guys. You might not hear from them. But then I did reach out to you, and we got a great dialogue going. We bonded on a lot of different levels. Obviously the one being the golden era of the WWF.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And with me working at 500 level, or being a partner in 500 level, I knew that I wanted to get you involved in a project. And so right away, again, we jumped into, I reached out to you, said, hey, I would love to do a Macho Man t-shirt with you. And we ended up working on the Forever Savage piece that just came out. So amazing. It came out, funky like a monkey, brother.
Well, what I enjoyed about that entire process was that you obviously had a vision. You wanted to be synonymous with the Macho Man, and you had this particular promo that you found where that was the one that really hit you. And you gave me some really good direction. And sometimes an artist like myself, it's really important to get that outside direction to kind of steer you where you need to be, because I've got ideas at the wazoo, but it's like being a film director. You got to have that producer to rein you in a little bit. It's like being in any artistic genre. There has to be certain levels around you, above you, even below you, that kind of direct you where you need to go. So that was like my first real taste at getting really solid direction for a design revolving around a character we're both passionate about.
Are you kidding me? No one's giving you that direction? I've
had people in the past where they're just like, go for it, man. And I'm like, do you really want me to go for it? Do you really want me? Because I can do some crazy stuff. But it's really nice having that, because I want to be able to produce a product that I know is synonymous with a particular character that's very fond to a lot of people. So it's good having that direction, and it's been great ever since. You've got that part down.
Oh, thanks, brother. That really means a lot, especially coming from you. And look, it's so funny because my father and I actually spoke about working with creatives and providing direction to them, and that could be a brutal process for some creatives. Some creatives are like, hey, dude, like, don't squelch my vibes here. You know what I mean? Like where, being a creative myself, because, look, that's how I cut my teeth. I really cut my teeth as a designer. I'm not an illustrator like you. Our skill sets are very different. But it's creative nonetheless.
Yeah.
And so I've been on the business end of getting terrible feedback and terrible direction.
Right.
So I've learned a lot on how to speak to creatives. Because it's just basically, how would you want somebody to speak to you, right? And that's been a tremendous part of kind of a piece of how I'm able to work and get the best out of the people, the partners, the collaborators that I work with.
Yeah.
I think that's a tremendously undervalued piece that people just, normal people wouldn't even think, oh, there's a certain way I have to speak to the people that I work with.
Yeah, direction's very important. And working with several art directors over the past few years, you definitely get that there's that middle ground that you like to stay in. There's some people that are a little too soft-handed with it,
right?
Which can be more of a challenge.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to grab more from them. You're trying to ask them, what can I really do to make this as good as it could possibly be?
Absolutely.
And then you do have the folks that are just like extremely just like hypercritical, come at you with every point, and you just have to do it or die on your hill. So yeah, it's very important on both sides of the table, because for you, communicating with artists who by nature can be they can internalize things because it's their creativity that they're putting on display.
Totally.
As an artist, it's also equally as important to be able to communicate back to the critical mind that is directing you.
Absolutely. And be able to take it. Cause like I said, a lot of artists can't, right?
Yeah.
Creatives are notorious for being, like I said, kind of, I don't want to say stubborn, but that's the creative vision that the artist put forward. And, sometimes it's very difficult for them to compromise on their particular vision.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, being a creative and being on both sides of the coin, it allows me to be extremely empathetic to my collaborators and really understand how to communicate with them. Look, am I perfect? No. You know what I mean? Absolutely. Nobody's perfect.
Right.
But I do the best I can. And when I get to work with guys like you, who are just so good at what they do, it makes the job that much more enjoyable. And I mean, look, dude, look what we're doing for a living. I mean, like it's a trip, right?
I have to remind myself sometimes, like when I talk to my wife, I'm like, hey, I got this thing I got to do. I got to draw, half naked men, It's a bit of a trip. I mean, because I'm balancing two worlds, right? I've got my freelance life where I do stuff with you and other clientele, and then I also have my business where we're doing entertainment, we're doing caricatures, and we're doing all these other things. And I pinch myself constantly because I'm just like, this is the wildest generation right now, where you can make money doing anything you want.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And again, I bring it back to my father on the previous episode. He even said, because my father grew up, he was an artist. He way better artist than I could ever dreamed of being. I mean, the guy's classically trained, and he's painted like Renaissance paintings, and you're like, what the heck? But the problem being, growing up in the 50s, 60s, 70s, you didn't have this whole digital revolution where guys like that were talented and could have made a really good living, they just didn't have the outlet, right? Unless you were like a sign painter or something like that, or you were doing illustrations for magazines, and those jobs were few and far between, and they went to the best of the very best. Whereas you just have to be good at this point.
You're not lying.
Like it's true. There's plenty of work out there, especially in the digital age.
Yeah, it's a very wild economy right now. Lots of opportunities. If I could tell you how many NFT messages I get in my DMs on a weekly basis,
right,
it's wild. It's just there's so many avenues, especially now in the collector's market, and with Bitcoin being what it is, and the blockchain being what it is. There's so much demand now for digital art, and
Yeah.
it could be anything. It just has to be collectible.
Where have you netted out on this NFT craze?
So typically I've been reached out a few times for NFT collaborations. The very first one I did, I asked for cash up front. I didn't even
So
want
you didn't
anything on the
want
back end.
you didn't want Bitcoin, you didn't want crypto, you wanted cash.
I didn't want anything on the back end. I just wanted to see how it played out.
Okay.
Because it was, it was new to them as well.
Sure.
They were getting into the realm. They had their own gallery space, whatever. So I created two original pieces for them, and they were GIFs, so they were animated pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And I just charged them my rate, and I said, guys, if this blows up, just come back and I'll do more stuff for you,
Right.
and then we can renegotiate from there. But if it doesn't, at least I know I'm protected for my time.
Right.
Did not blow up. And then the next collaboration that was reached out about was in regards to sports NFTs. They were more of a startup situation, so I kind of want to see where they go with it. But I've had people ask me if I wanted to do like 200 variants of the same character, and they would sell them at like a lower price point, and then just see how it goes. And I don't know if it's for me right now, man. I have friends in the space and they're having fun, but nobody's getting rich off of it. I mean,
I mean, the more I dig into it, the more I feel or find that these crypto art or the NFTs that really go ballistic, it's very few and far between, right? Because there's so many people publishing and minting their NFTs every day.
Yeah.
It becomes, it really has to hit the right kind of, like, it's got to go viral in a weird way, right?
Well, those are the conversations I've had. Established artists that have been doing digital artwork for a number of years that already have a following, they're doing great. Yeah. They're doing, like, there's a Boss Logic who's literally made tens of millions of dollars in NFTs because he's been out there for so long and he already had that following. But the grassroots artists, the people that I know, they have to network their tails off. They have to really get out there. They have to be on all the forums. They have to be on all the discords. They have to have these conversations, on social media with fellow NFT artists, just so they can get their foot in the door and build that audience. But they're working super hard to get there.
Totally. I mean, and at the risk of sounding very old here, I'm on the sidelines at the with the NFT movement at the time. Yeah. I'm waiting to see how this whole thing plays out. Sure. And a lot of people that are in the space say, if you wait, that's it. It's going to pass you by. I don't know. I think it's, I think it's an interesting space. I'm certainly intrigued by it. I can't tell you how many of my friends are involved in the space, and constantly are just like you, hitting me up to get involved as well. And listen, I wish all my friends that are involved in it all the best. And
same.
Look, for guys like us, we want that space to blow up because we're creators.
Absolutely.
So if it does become a viable marketplace and something that could be sustainable and, kind of real over time, then that's amazing. I'm very much looking forward to this metaverse. I really am.
Yeah, it's interesting. Getting back into like opportunities digitally, that's what it's all about. And like I've been reading the good stories and the bad stories. You want to hear a really funny bad one?
I love a good funny bad story.
Okay. So WWE did a John Cena NFT.
Okay.
And the way they had a lot of success with the Undertaker NFT a month or two prior. And it did really well for them.
I believe that. That makes sense to me.
So they decided they want to do a John Cena NFT.
Okay.
And what they do is they pair each NFT purchase with a tangible package. So
I like that.
That's big, right? Yeah. So you buy the John Cena NFT for, I don't know, $1,500, and you get like this limited run shirt, one of 100, and then you get all this other stuff.
I think that's great. Whenever you could pair this NFT with something that's tangible or some sort of experience. Like I know Gary V does like this it's like a redeemable experience with him. If you have
Yeah,
like the friendship bear or whatever, like he'll hang out with you for an hour and it's redeemable one time and then you pass it on. I think that's brilliant. I
that's
think
very cool.
as if you could use NFTs as an access token, I think that's tremendous because that you're using it in an innovative way. I love that.
And I think the lesson WWE learned from this is because Cena disclosed that they had 100 available and they only sold 9.
Really?
But
Why do you think it? Did you think it was because they couldn't see him?
I think the valuable lesson they learned from it was, don't overstep. That's one thing. Know your market. Don't overstep. And if you're going to have a t-shirt, it better be a damn good t-shirt because it was not the best designed t-shirt in the world.
Wasn't. Okay.
Adam, if you and I did that shirt, they would have easily sold 10. All right. Okay. Easily.
At least 9.5.
Yeah. But I think it's really, the market's trying to figure it out, right? They're trying to figure out like they want to know their audience. And when you have an audience and you're catering to a specific audience, like Boss Logic, for example, the people that are buying his NFTs, these are people that are certifiably millionaires. These are people that are making really good money, really good
Wealthy
livings.
people. Yeah.
Very wealthy people.
There's a lot of athletes that are, I find it interesting. They're buying these NFTs and then they're using them as their like Twitter avatar or their Instagram avatar as well.
Yeah.
Like the ape ones. I don't even know what they're called. The crypto apes, I think it's called, right?
Yeah, that's the metaphor that's always used for me when people reach out to me. They say we want to be the next crypto apes, and I'm like, there's already hundreds of them. I see them everywhere.
Right.
It's nuts.
So Cena fell on his face, huh? That's interesting. It's very, very interesting. And you think it was because of the merch pairing, or you just think it was the character that they chose?
I don't think it was the character because Cena has been a known draw as far as like retail sales are concerned. I think what it boiled down to is knowing your audience, and where someone's probably happy to pay $500 to $1,000 to meet him at an event and get his autograph. I don't think people are chomping at the bit to spend $1,500 to have a one of a kind t-shirt or one of 100 t-shirts. So I think the space, in order for it to thrive, is each individual gallery space, and anyone that's pumping out the NFTs, they just have to understand their audience. Yeah. There's going to be those people that want to spend 0.01 in Ethereum. There's going to be the people that are going to want to spend 5. So you just got to cater to those audiences.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, the reality is, in my opinion, the market hasn't really matured yet, right? Like crypto is certainly on the tips of a lot of people's tongues right now. A lot of people are like, what is this crypto stuff? Even people that just aren't in the digital space. Like, so people are curious, but it's not like everybody has a crypto wallet, right? So, it's like you said before, like supply and demand, like, where are we really at? How many people are we really talking to? How many people can we really sell to? And I'm sure a lot of people are going to get at me. Oh, there's millions of people that have crypto. And I got it. I'm not trying to upset anybody. Right. I got it. There's millions. But, the reality is it needs to be billions. Yeah. Right. For this thing to really, and you know what? Look, it could get there, and that's the thing I keep saying, like, where is this all going to net out? Is Bitcoin going to be the coin? Is it going to be Ethereum? Is it going to be Litecoin? Is it going to be, what coin is it going to be? Is the government going to come out with their own crypto? I bet you they will. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? So, and I know like the government coming out with their own crypto goes against everything in that crypto stands for. Right. But look, the reality is, money is being used less and less, right? I mean, we hear about people talking about Venmo me, right? And that's a completely paperless transaction.
Yeah, liquidity is not in your pocket. Liquidity is in the cloud. It's like
literally, yeah. I've been saying this for quite a while that money is going to become passe. But look, not money, but paper money, right? Physical. Yeah. But then there's the other side of me that always says, hey, look, cash is king. And I don't know. Maybe I'm old school, but I don't know. I'm so torn on all this.
I know it's really difficult. My business partner and I, with the caricature business, we made a very hard decision this year to go paperless with all of our retail transactions.
Okay.
We didn't see a single dip. We actually saw a 30% increase.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So as far as paperless transaction goes, Are we talking about like credit cards, Venmo, Zelle?
We just did credit card only. So
Uh-huh.
we didn't do Venmo,
Okay.
and we didn't do Zelle or anything like that.
So you're using
We
like a Square.
Yeah, we had Square. So we do Square invoicing for parties and events. And then we do just Square transactions when we're doing retail.
Mhm.
And yes, we upped our prices, but everything we did was paperless. And our artists saw higher tips and our sales were up 30%.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
And less to worry about from a loss prevention standpoint as well.
Why do you think that? Do you think it's because when people pay in cash, they're just limited to what they have in their pocket, and when they're paying with credit card, they, it's just like, oh yeah, sure, 20%. It sounds about right. Is that what you think it might be?
I think it's just more like it's like an old hat. You just feel comfortable when you pull the credit card out. You see the screen, and then you just see these buttons, these arbitrary buttons that just tell you a percentage. You don't even think about it. So it worked out really well for our people. I'm not saying that that's the direction things are going to go, but I'm saying the trends that I've noticed, at least up in Seattle, is that people are perfectly fine going paperless.
Wow.
I still like having cash when I'm in certain places. I'm not going to say what those places are, but but there will come a
Took me a
time where
little while.
people have Venmo tattoos, like a little a
I
little
think
QR code.
it's already happened.
Oh, it's wild.
It's already happened. So now that we're chatting about your business over the line,
Yeah.
tell me a bit about that. How did that get started? I mean, we could all imagine how it got started. You're an artist, but give us a little color background how it all came to be.
Yeah, so I've been in the caricature industry for a number of years. I started drawing them in 1999 in Cincinnati, Ohio,
Wow.
and through working in the retail setting at theme parks, I eventually moved up the corporate ladder, started training people, started teaching other caricature artists and showing them how to do the job. And throughout all of that, I had a friend named Dexter Rothschild that we grew really close. And he moved out to Seattle, I want to say in 2008.
Okay.
And he was begging me. He said, please, Nolan, move to Seattle. I
Wow.
need you out here. We have something out here. There's a market, and it hasn't been tapped into yet. So it took me a couple years, but I finally moved out here in 2010, and that's when we really ramped up over the line art. So
So real quick, I mean, we're all for like every single anybody who's listening to this within earshot has experienced or walked past one of these character artists at a theme park and have seen the character artist. We most of us have probably had one done at one time or another, and I'm sure. We all wonder, how did this guy end up here or gal end up here, right? Because it's a trip to see, like, and these people are so fast at drawing these amazing characters. Obviously, some better than others. I've had some characters where I go, I don't know who that is, but here you go, and you always you kind of feel bad. You got to give them the tip and and the thing regardless. But you don't have. I could, and that's that. I would love to chat with you about that. But I want to first chat with you about how did you get into character? Because you started off, doing Spider-Man, you're drawing wrestling guys. How did you see? Because it's a completely different skill set, right? Like you're tapping into a totally different part of your brain, in my opinion.
It's true. And it was one of those things where so my first job ever was when I was 15 years old. I got a job working the games at a theme park called Kings Island.
Okay.
And so the basketball shot, skee ball, the arcade games. So I would help operate and run those and, take all the transactions. But there was always this little booth right across from the basketball shot, right next to the railroad station. And there was this beautiful girl drawing these cartoons. And I will admit, the first thing that caught my eye was the artist, but the second thing that caught my eye was what she was creating.
Right.
She was drawing these really amazing drawings of these people. They were cartoony, which kind of fell in line with the cartoon aspect that I grew to love and appreciate.
Yep.
And they were using these markers that emulated these beautiful calligraphic lines that really appealed to me from a comic book standpoint. And then these people could get bodies if they wanted to. So you could draw them as superheroes, sports figures, doing this, that, or the other thing. So I went over and I talked to her and I was like, I'm a pretty good artist myself. I could probably do that. And, she kind of shrugged it off. But then she gave me the name of her manager and I applied for the job. And for 2 years in a row, I didn't get it. I was denied.
Wow.
And the first year I was too young. The second year they had too many people, or they had too many people, and they had all the slots filled. But then the third year, I was dedicated. I came in with a sweet portfolio.
Wow.
It was 1999. Star Wars Episode 1 just came out. So I just gave them like 20 drawings of Jar Jar Binks. And then I actually drew someone live during the interview, and they liked it enough. Yeah,
wow.
they dug it, and I got the job, and I got some boot camp training, and they just threw me out there to the wolves, man.
Wow. Listen, Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team.
Yeah, there you go.
So look, that doesn't, you know what I mean? Look, that's how championships are won. Rejection is not necessarily a bad thing in your life.
Not at all. No, it's very motivational.
Extremely motivational. Anytime somebody tells you can't do something, you watch me. That's great fuel for the fire, in my opinion. I've dealt with a fair amount of rejection in my life, and that's always made me want to battle back stronger. Everybody loves a good underdog, right? A good Rocky story. So there he is.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, yo, Adrian, I love it. So you start. So prior to this, though, you didn't have any character experience. Had you drawn your friends in a character kind of way, or you really just kind of jumped from the frying pan into the fire on this?
So, I can't say I would caricaturize my friends. I would cartoonify them. So I would, they were very simplistic, but yeah, they did fall under the caricature, category.
Right.
But once I was under the umbrella, I got some really good training in every facet of the job.
Right.
I got training artistically to help me understand the line work and how different features relate to one another. But then I also got that real life, the really valuable training, and that's the sales training and interacting with people.
Wow.
And reading people.
Right.
So when we hire people, when we hire artists, or even interview artists for that matter, the very first thing we look at isn't necessarily their portfolio and the caliber of their work. We look at the caliber of their character. We look at the caliber of the individual. We say to ourselves, can we see this person at an event with thousands of people? Can we see them talking to an individual, talking to a small child for 10 minutes and keeping them entertained? So to me, some of the most valuable things I learned on that job wasn't necessarily the artistic aspect.
Right.
It was the ability to read and the ability to communicate and sell my artistic wares.
Right. So what you're saying is it's less about the art and it's more about the experience that's provided.
Yeah, many times. And if it is about the art, we always tell the guests, choose your artist carefully.
Right.
Watch what they're doing. Don't just arbitrarily line up and just hop in the seat. It's not a race.
Yeah, but most people don't have that that trained eye to know who's a good artist and who isn't. Right.
That's true. That is true.
Most people, I mean, some do. But most don't have a clue of what good and bad art really is. I mean, their gut tells them, but what do they know?
They don't realize what bad art is until they spend $100 on it.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly my point. So, and dude, how many faces at this point would you say you've looked at and drawn?
Not as many as it used to be.
20 years, right?
Yeah, it's been 20 plus years. It'll be 23 years. Oh my God. Next year.
I know.
Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy to think about it. I was interviewed a few times and asked that question back in my prime when I was doing it all the time. And I said I'd stretch to say maybe 500,000. Maybe.
What? I was thinking thousands. You think you've drawn 500,000 faces?
So if you were to take my most formidable years on an average day, a busy day, I would draw about 40 faces. On a busy day, I draw about 70 faces. That's
Oh my
one day.
God.
Yeah. So if you do the math, it does start to add up after a while.
Oh my God. That is incredible. That
It's
is
pretty nuts.
crazy.
Yeah.
So I could only imagine how your brain must process a face at this point in the game, right?
Much different than it used to be.
Well, yeah, I'm sure, but I mean, when you're, because anybody who's really, really good at something, their brain accesses things in very different ways.
Right.
At least from the experience that I have personally with things that I do, because there's always a problem, and then your brain has a solution that's packed away that you've come up with before. Right. In my experience. Right. So I would assume you probably look at faces and go, oh, you're this face. Right. And you're this set of eyes. You're option A, and then, whatever, volume 32. You know what I mean? It's like you could act, you've drawn those eyes before. If you've drawn 500,000 faces, you've seen so many noses and mouths and cheekbones. Yeah. It becomes kind of a jigsaw puzzle to you. It's like, okay, I've done this before. I know my way around these features. Is that how it works for you?
There is a lot of recall. And on a busy day, and this is kind of this, and I'm really happy you brought this up, because as an artist, we try to avoid that. We always try to find a different solution or a different way to depict something, because as an artist, it's something that's imbued within us to try and get better with everything we're doing.
Right.
On a busy day, I will fall under those traps. And I'm not saying they're traps, because it's not really a trap to make a shit ton of money. That's a good problem to have. Right, but then you have like the little devil on this shoulder saying, keep pumping them out. Come on, buddy. You can keep doing it. And then you have this little artist, you have like little Van Gogh on this shoulder. That's like, I died for my art. You need to make this. You need to make this really good. But nowadays, what I tell most of the artists, because we're still living in an economy, especially in Seattle, where everything's very expensive, as I'm sure you know, in California.
Yeah.
And I tell my artists and myself a lot of the times, I'm like, you have to balance it. So if you have a day where you see that one face that just speaks to you, I don't care how long you spend on that one face. Take the time, man. Do it for you. This is your opportunity to create something that you could be really happy with. And then the rest of the day, focus on making money, because you can't have that experience all day, because you won't be able to pay your rent. So have that experience for an hour, and then spend the next 7 hours really just trying to make people happy, obviously, but also pay your rent.
Right.
So it's a balancing act for a lot of artists. Some artists go way far to the right and they just do the stamping on everything. And then there's artists that are way far on the other end that just do the artistic aspect. And I honestly don't know if either one's truly happy. I have no clue, but I always try to tell everyone, just meet in the middle somewhere. Do a little bit of both. Yeah.
Wow. That's tremendous, man. I always see those guys at the parks or wherever I see them, and I just go, wow, it's a grind. It is a grind. And especially with art, where, like I said, artists, they really want to put out, the artists that I know, they always want to put out really great work. And I could imagine what that's like, seeing, like you said, 60 to 70 faces a day, and dealing with that inner turmoil of, do I really spend the time here?
Yeah.
So with seeing 500,000 faces and drawing them, you must have just incredible stories of either people that have sat in your chair or just funny instances that have happened where somebody maybe said to you, "This doesn't look like me." Like, what? How do you deal with that?
Oh God, I deal with it a lot better now than I did when I was younger. That's for sure. I think my first year, I was more concerned with getting phone numbers and like stupid stuff like that. And I do have one story. When I was younger, I think I was 18, and some lady, I'm not going to say she was particularly attractive. Maybe she was beautiful on the inside, but she was so satisfied with my depiction of her that she came back later when I was in the middle of drawing someone else and licked my earlobe and said, thank
What?
you. Now think about that in today's society with COVID being
Wow.
what it is and all
Right.
that. But yeah, we do experience a lot of things. There's also a lot of ribbing. We'll prank each other quite a bit.
Yeah.
We'll say, "Oh man, he's just going to draw you really fat, or he's going to draw you with big ears.
Right.
Don't go to that artist." But most of the time, it's really good natured, really good hearted. You
Right.
get the occasional crotchety person that's not happy, or
Yeah, I was gonna say, I would assume you had to have a couple of Karens in your career.
oh, totally. Yeah. And I usually do the audience poll. So I will have the subject right here. I'll rip off the drawing and I'll show it to everyone behind me and I'll say, hey, does this look like him? Does this look like her?
Wow.
And if the majority says yes, then I look at the customer. I'm like, there you have it. And if they say
Right.
no, then I'm like, all right, well, that's a goose egg. I'm not making any money on that sale, but
So do they say, hey, you got to do me again? And that's got to be tough for the art. Like, you know what I mean? Like the artist has got to be like, I really don't want to be drawing this person again, especially after they said that my artwork didn't look like them.
yeah, I think that goes back to what you mentioned about critiquing, right? It's
Right.
it's artists, we can internalize things. So our company policy is if you're not happy with your drawing, you're more than welcome to sit for a different artist.
Okay. I like
So
that. I
yeah,
like
we
that.
we try not to put the artist in a position where that they've already been rejected once,
Right.
and now they have to deal with, is this going to happen again? I've already wasted this much time the first time. Am I going to keep wasting my time?
Exactly.
So I always tell them, hey, listen, let's just like see if there's another artist that's more your flavor. Let's get you in their seat, and then they'll make it happen for you. And I've never had a customer deny that, and I've also never had a customer upset with the finished product.
Yeah.
It's a hard conversation to have with the artist though, but
Of
after a
course.
while it's kind of like you work out enough, your hands get calloused.
Yeah.
If you're drawing enough and that happens to you a few times, after a while it's no big deal.
And I want to talk to you too. COVID made us all adjust in really innovative ways. And I noticed what you were doing during COVID because you couldn't do these corporate engagements anymore. You couldn't get to the theme parks or the boardwalks or wherever it is that your artists would naturally be in their natural habitat.
Right.
So I noticed you adjusted to doing online character sessions as a part of your offerings. Speak to that. How'd you guys come up with that?
We are very lucky that COVID happened last year versus 10 years prior,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know what many artists would have done if that were the
Right.
case. Digital art wasn't a big thing. We didn't have these online tools, to talk to people from around the world. So the idea was not ours. It was something that our community had kind of concocted together.
Okay.
And I know in the past, there were a few caricature artists that had already been doing this for conventions in Austria or France,
So cool.
where, because there's not a large concentration of people that do what we do in other countries, especially from an entertainment aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of these countries would reach out to American artists and they'd say, how can we make this work? What's a good workaround? So I don't know if it was a guy named Ryan Rhodes or maybe a guy named Court Jones, but someone had toyed around with the idea of doing remote characters before and just said, this is what I've done. You guys should do that. And so we started marketing it. And then Microsoft, who's been a client of ours for well over a decade, started doing more and more virtual events, and they started to fold us into those. So we're still doing them. I've got 2 this week.
So awesome. And
Yeah.
and I said this too at the beginning of, or I guess the middle of the pandemic. I said the companies that could figure out how to make it through COVID are going to come out so amazing. So they're going to add an offering or two to the other end of this
Yeah.
because COVID made us all innovate what our offerings were or how we conduct business, right? In my case, it was doing a lot more of these Zoom meetings where typically I would travel and go spend some FaceTime, not this kind of FaceTime, but real FaceTime or
Right.
press
Right.
flesh, if you will, right? And I was always a huge proponent for there's no replacement for sitting with somebody in a physical space and actually getting together with them, spending real time with them. And I still believe that there's no replacement for that.
I agree.
but you know, the teleconferencing technology has gotten so much better, and people have become so much more accustomed and open to doing them, that it's opened up business opportunities, I think, in a much broader way, especially for what you guys are doing. It's incredible. Your footprint was quite literally limited to Seattle, and now you're global. Your opportunities, there's no bounds for your offerings at this point in the game, and I love that you guys figured out how to survive and thrive.
Yeah.
And now you're on the other side of it, and now you have this amazing new offering, this what could be a tentpole offering for your business. And I absolutely love that. That's so tremendous. And also, your artists don't necessarily have to be in Seattle; they could be anywhere. So
that's definitely the case.
Yeah, it's so cool. It's so cool. So I mean, kudos to you, man, for you know, adding that to that piece to your repertoire, or offering to your business. I mean, that's, like I said, now you have a whole new piece of business, virtual characters. It's tremendous. And I love it too. I think it's such a great team building thing. I was a part of your early beta when you were like, hey, how is this going to work? And the process was so smooth. I got to chat with some people in the chat room while you were drawing other people. Adam, you're up, and you drew me, and I'd done in 10, 15 minutes, whatever it may have been. Yeah. We got to, vibe and chat for a little bit. You sent me my character. I was super happy with the way the process was. It was, it was great. I just thought it was super innovative and really different. And so I applaud you for adding that and figuring out how to adjust in those trying times. It was still trying times.
Well, thank you for being a part of that. I would have appreciated it if you wore some clothes, but that's besides the point.
You didn't specify,
It's been fun. I mean, this weekend, or I'm sorry, 1 week from tomorrow, we're drawing people in India. We're drawing people in Israel.
So great.
We got 15 artists, different time zones working. It's a really cool thing. And to be honest, a lot of these corporate entities that used to have these major events, we used to do events at CenturyLink Field for Amazon, where they literally had 20,000 people on site for a Christmas party. And we would do these events, and they were massive in scale, and they were great for the artists because we'd have 25 artists working at them. But now everything's virtual.
Yeah.
They still haven't made that leap back into personal, attended events. And so it's been honestly, I don't have to drive. I don't have to wear pants for that matter.
I'm not wearing pants right now.
Yeah, see, we're on board. So it's been really cool, and it has presented some fun opportunities for other artists that I normally wouldn't have had an opportunity to work with. So it's great.
So awesome, dude, man. That's great. That really, really is tremendous. I applaud you for that. I want to jump into your place in the wrestling art community. We haven't scratched that surface yet. I think, a lot of people know you for that. I mean, obviously, you have your Over the Line business, and that's been tremendously successful, it sounds like, and that's amazing in itself. But you have a passion, as we've mentioned, for wrestling, and particularly old school wrestling. I mean, I know you're into it these days as well. You're into kind of what's happening, but it seems that your heart really is in the golden era. Go ahead.
Yeah, I tell a lot of people, like, if all I could do were nostalgia pieces for the rest of my wrestling art career, I would be happier than a pig. And you know what? I just like, people are always like, "Are you tired of drawing the NWO? Are you tired?"
Hell no.
I'm like, no. Are you kidding me? Like, this is my youth. This is like me reliving some of my most valuable memories.
Totally.
And I get to pass that on to other people, and they get to, be a part of it. I think that's like the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
And the current product, I still watch it occasionally, and I'll still go to the live events, and I still talk to some of the wrestlers that perform for them. But my heart has always been with WWF from 1990 till about 2006.
Right.
So there's a 16-year window where I was just like all in, watching it all the time, just loving every second of it.
So
And
how did you jump into? I mean, was it something that you found yourself into this? Because this is it. Oddly enough, I kind of found myself kind of roaming around this community myself and following other guys that are also involved in the wrestling art scene. But there's a lot of overlay, right? There's collectors that collect the toys, then there are guys that they're just really into kayfabe, and they're into like the community is real strong.
it's wild.
And there's a lot of overlap. There really is. Again, just like you, my heart is in the golden era. So yeah, I can't, it's too much to follow for me these days with these new characters. But I will say I owe a tremendous debt to Vince McMahon, and that may sound funny. But I'm not going to lie. I believe a huge part of my branding and marketing skills were learned from Vince McMahon.
Yeah,
no doubt about it. If you watched WWF in the 80s, and you saw the phenomenal job that this man did of every single one of these characters that came through those curtains. I mean, listen, there were a few flops, Max Moon, maybe not so good, but look,
hey, there's flops every week.
You know what I mean? Like, Repo Man, I don't know. But look, my point is the stars that really shined in the WWF were branded and marketed flawlessly.
Absolutely.
They stuck to their gimmick, and they were consistent on a week to week basis, right? The $1 Million Man was always the $1 Million Man. He stuck by his brand. His messaging was on point. When the guy got on the mic, he played the character like a fiddle. He was unbelievable. The suits, the flashy suits with the dollar signs, and obviously the marquee art that they had for him, the music, everything was branded flawlessly.
He was on Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, man.
He was the epitome of corporate greed during the 1980s.
All of you people out there still don't believe that you can be bought. Everybody's got a price for the $1 Million Man.
and they used Vince McMahon's house for that episode.
Was that right? Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. But my point is, the guy is a marketing and branding genius.
Yeah.
And so not only did I enjoy the storylines, but I really enjoyed the color of it, right? And what I mean by the color is the thought that went into every character, right? The sound, the theme song that played for every guy. Like, there was a reason for everything, and that drew me in as a creative. And subsequently, probably you, maybe subconsciously, but what do you think drew you in as a fan?
Definitely a lot of the pageantry. I mean, and to this day, I still tell people these are like real life superheroes. Like it's not Shakespeare, but in a sense it is. I mean, it's episodic storytelling that's at your doorstep. It's like, if they're in the city that you live in, you get to go see this happen live. And if you don't get to go see it live, you can still watch it on your TV or your phone. The music, definitely the glitz and glamour, the colors. I mean, obviously Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior were the two standouts for me when I was a kid. I was so torn. I remember I saw WrestleMania 6. We had to rent the VHS. Okay, we didn't have the pay-per-view, and you couldn't get the VHS until like 3 months after. And if you wanted to buy the VHS, it was like a whopping like $80.
Yeah.
So we rented it, and I still to that point had no clue if it was going to be Hogan or Warrior that was going to take home the belt. And I was heartbroken. I was heartbroken when Hogan lost, man. I was just like, oh. Now I look back at it, I'm just like, oh, come on, man. I mean, Hogan was still the winner, through when it was all said and done. But,
obviously, Hogan, as we know, is the GOAT.
Yeah.
Hogan is the GOAT, and you actually got to work with the Hulkster.
Yeah,
Talk
right
about
there.
that. Talk about that.
Yeah, 2012, I believe. I got a phone call from a guy named Ron Howard,
Yep.
and not the director, not Richie Cunningham. This dude with like a straight. He's like the epitome of Florida beach dude. You talk to him on the phone, and that's what you hear. And so he was just like, "Hey, man, I'm friends with Hulk Hogan. We're looking to start up some stuff." He saw a caricature you did. I'm sure. I hope Ron never hears this, but because he'll hate my impersonation. But he saw a caricature I did of him in 2007,
Okay.
and he's just doing the classic,
Yep. Mr. Olympia.
Yeah, there you go. But Hogan was really into. He always calls my artwork strong. He's always like, "That's strong, brother." And so he was really into it. So I did a small line of licensed shirts for them back in 2012 with a company that I don't even think exists anymore. They just had like a backdoor licensing deal. I got a little bit on the back end. I don't know if we sold a lot, but I got to pretty much have carte blanche. I did like 5 designs, pretty much whatever I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And they put them up on the website. Well, fast forward, I think a year or two later, Hogan starts up the beach shop in Clearwater, Florida. And they say, "Listen, man, we love what you did with us, with these guys. We want to bring you in to design our logo and to do a few more things with us." And so I was like, "Yeah, let's do this." So, we put a spin on his whole, crab. He calls it the crab.
Mm-hmm.
Did a couple other things for them. And then I want to say 3 months later, I see this post on Instagram of Jimmy Hart next to this massive fiberglass sign of my drawing. And I'm like, "Oh, this is happening.
This is real.
This is real,
fast.
man. It got real fast." And so at the time, Hogan was with TNA Wrestling in Florida, and he was starting up the beach shop. And fast forward another few months, the beach shop got off the ground, and I talked to Ron. I was like, "Hey, Ron, I'm going to be at this caricature convention in St. Pete's. That's like an hour away from you guys. I'd love to swing by and meet the big man." And so he was like, "All right, we'll see if we can make it happen." And so my wife was with me at the time, and we got to meet Hogan, and he was incredibly cordial and thankful and
That's awesome.
incredibly kind. And, all these guys, once you reach a certain level, you get a bad rap no matter what. And that's how you're at a certain levels when you have your haters. You're not successful if you don't have haters.
Hey, as Biggie Small says, mo money, mo problems.
Exactly. So people can say what they want about the big man, but every experience I've had with Hulk Hogan has been amazing. He's been incredibly good to me. He's been incredibly gracious, and I will never forget that. He's one of the few figures that I grew up adoring that actually lived up to everything that was said about him.
That's refreshing to hear, right? Because you often hear "don't meet your heroes," right?
Exactly.
And that must have been scary, right? You're like, "Oh God, I hope this guy doesn't really just crush my childhood."
No, he was fantastic. And I've told the story before, so it's not taboo or anything, but the day I met Hulk Hogan was the day that the infamous tape came out online. Mm-hmm. And I made the phone call to Ron, and Ron said, "I'm not sure he's going to make it out, man. He's got a meeting with his lawyers. I think he said at the Chicken Hut or something like that, or at the Wing Hut."
Right.
And I was like, "Oh man, this is heartbreaking. I might not be able to meet him. I've been looking forward to this for so long." He still took the time to come see me and my wife.
That's amazing.
On a really bad day, like a day that had affected him and his relationship on a deep emotional level. And he still came out to spend 30 minutes with me and my wife. And to me, I don't know if I would have that in me, but he's that good of a guy, and he definitely appreciates the people that love him and that have grown to adore him. If I could tell you how many people walked in through the door of that beach shop out of the blue, and we're just flipping out.
Yeah.
And he would just totally play it up. It was amazing.
That's so cool. That's great to hear. That really is great to hear. There's a lot of people in Hollywood. I've met a few, as you can imagine, in my career. And some of them are just, salt of the earth,
Right.
and understand the position that they're in. And then there are some that, expect the world, delivered at their feet, and I get it, like, especially when it comes to athletes, it's, not, a wrestler, I think, is a little different because, with particularly sports athletes, a lot of them, and this is not a broad stroke. I'm just saying some of them, they stop maturing at a certain age, right? Because once they hit 16 years old, 17 years old, people realize, wait a minute, this guy is amazing on the field or the court or whatever the case may be. And people start treating them special, right? And the maturity level, or not the maturity level, the maturity kind of sort of gets stunted because they don't go on to have these rough and tough experiences that we most of us have in our 20s, 30s, 40s, right? And get these real life experiences where, life isn't all, oh, let me do this for you, let me do that for you, let me give you a free this, right? Where the world is kind of gifted to them because they are who they are. They're extremely talented. And it's not by their fault. It's not their fault. It's just, it's the way the world reacts to them. And so they develop in a certain way. And again, I don't blame them, but I've come across some athletes in my career that you go, okay, like, well, that was kind of like a 17-year-old response, but you're like a 30-something-year-old man, right? Yeah, I'm not going to name names, but some and others I meet that I'm like, wow, this person is tremendous. But I'm just so happy to hear that the Hulkster, is, lives up to his name and is just awesome. Hopefully one day I'll be bestowed such an honor.
You guys can flex next to each other.
Oh, we'll do the Mr. Olympia, right? Or the crab. Well,
there you go.
We'll see. But I also want to jump into us working together. We came across this incredible opportunity that was, in my opinion, a dream come true for me. For some that are listening, they may know we have a company called Big League Pillows, which started out of another opportunity. Again, my bread and butter, the thing that pays my bills is my digital marketing agency. But I somehow, as I do, found myself involved in this particular opportunity with Big League Pillows. And we've grown this thing over the past 4 years, and it's gone on to do, really fun things. And when I first started with this thing, the whole inspiration of Big League Pillows was nostalgia, right? Like when I was first invited into a pillow opportunity, the only thing I could think of was my WWF wrestling buddy that I had when I was a kid. It was my favorite thing that I had. It was such a cool product. I love that the art wrapped around the pillow, and it was not a pillow. It was not a pillow. It was
not at all.
It was the Hulkster, brother, right?
Yeah.
Like it was my wrestling buddy, quite literally. And it was just I had so many great fond memories of that thing. And so when I got involved in this pillow opportunity, somebody basically came to me and said, "Hey, we want you to, would you be interested in, coming up with a pillow product?" The only thing I could think of was a wrestling buddy. But naturally we backed into sports because of my background being so rich in sports. And then again, a lot of that kind of nostalgia was wrapped into what Big League Pillows ultimately became, with the draft letter and the box and, the whole presentation. It's a nostalgia play. It really, really is. It harkens back to a better day of the 80s. And, it has a whole Cabbage Patch vibe with the letter versus like adoption papers. So it was, a lot of the inspiration came from that special time in my life because I knew I liked it. And I hoped that other people that are maybe my age now will harken back to it when they see the product and kind of get that nostalgia vibes. And a lot of them have picked up on it. And a lot of them leave in the comments, although it's a jersey shaped pillow. If you're not familiar, by the way, if you're watching this, you're not familiar, go check out bigleaguepillows.com and you'll see exactly what we're talking about. That's what they call a cheap pop in the industry, right?
Hey, that was a good one. That was a good one.
So again, a lot, and it's so funny because a lot of people that see the product see right through it and they go, this reminds me of a wrestling buddy that I had when I was a kid. And I love that. Whenever people pick up on that, I go, oh, that's so cool that people are picking up on that vibe, because that's kind of what I was throwing down. That's totally where the inspiration came from. And believe it or not, as luck would have it, I ended up meeting Stephanie Iskander, who was the original artist of the Wrestling Buddies, and we had great chats, like how you and I have great chats.
Yeah.
And now we're working together, Stephanie and I, on another project, and we'll have Stephanie on here one day to chat about that. And I don't want to ruin that just yet because it hasn't been announced yet, but here's the scoop. We are working on something really fun. And so getting to work with Stephanie, who created the inspiration of what Big League was, and now the UFC reaches out to us and says, hey, how do we get involved in this Big League business? And I say, well, what if we kind of what if we did a Wrestling Buddy inspired UFC product? And fireworks from there, right? And then you and I get on the phone and I say, hey, got this opportunity. If there's a guy that would just knock this thing out of the park with the UFC and kind of giving it that edge and that modern day kind of artistic feel, are you kidding? Right?
Yeah.
So,
and I had a wrestling buddy.
Of course you did. Of course. Who did you have?
I had the Hulkster too, man.
You had the Hulkster, of course.
Yeah.
I would assume they probably sold a lot of Hulksters.
Yeah, maybe a few.
Probably,
maybe a few.
Probably a couple. My buddy had the Macho Man. I did see one of my friends maybe had a Boss Man. Obviously, Warrior was big.
That was a big one.
There was $1 Million Man.
Yep.
I mean, I could only imagine what the numbers were in sales. I would, if I could see the numbers of like Hulksters versus $1 Million Mans, I'd love to see that.
Oh man. Can't even imagine.
Yeah. But so, yeah, man, like I'd love to hear kind of like what your thoughts were when I hit you on this opportunity.
I mean, it was immediate excitement, to be honest with you. I mean, as soon as you brought Wrestling Buddies into the conversation, you just ignited like a spark, in my imagination. And kind of thinking in line with where you wanted to go with it, I just started having these ideas swimming in my brain about how we could create something much more modern that a modern audience could really gravitate towards, but like you said, still have that nostalgia aspect.
Right.
So when you came to me with the idea of doing Conor McGregor, I didn't want to do a complete 180 of what was done in the past, but I did want to honor it and take it to the 21st century. So I started bringing more caricature aspects into it. Mm-hmm. We started to fold more likeness into it and capturing those characters. Obviously, back in the 80s, I don't think a tattooed wrestler would be a hot seller,
right, with
the families. So incorporating tattoos into the mix and also like putting a spin on that was also an interesting challenge.
Yeah.
You could not have picked a better prototype than Conor McGregor.
Right.
He is synonymous with MMA, but he's also kind of following that Vince McMahon
he's
mantra.
He's a
character.
Yeah.
He's a character. He's a brand. What you're seeing at a press conference isn't the real Conor McGregor.
It might be.
It might be. I don't know.
I believe that's who he is.
Well, but he's there.
What anyone says.
He's there to sell. He's there to sell.
No doubt.
He's there to put butts in seats.
Yeah.
Whether he wins or loses a fight, every time McGregor is on the card, that's going to be a gangbuster pay-per-view. So it's just one of those things where Conor was the perfect fit. I don't know if it were anyone else. I don't know if it necessarily would have hit as well as it did right away.
Right.
So I'm grateful.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for Conor McGregor as well. We all are. I mean, look, he's you know, he has his flaws just like everybody does, you know. Look, you know, he happens to be in the spotlight, so his flaws are certainly way more magnified than, you know, say mine or yours or anybody's for that matter. You know, but I mean, yeah, he is certainly a huge cornerstone in the success of MMA and the combat sports in general.
Yeah.
I mean, what he's been able to do with crossing over to boxing and obviously, you know, with his whiskey, and I mean, the guy's a you know, $1 billion brand. It's unbelievable what he's been able to do. With his
just wait until they see what we've got lined up next.
Well, and that leads me into what's coming next. I mean, there's a lot of great things in the pipeline that we're working on. We can't divulge or share just yet, but
there's lots of character,
and I'm very, very excited to see what the Big Shots brand holds for us in the future. You've done such an amazing job with, you know, the first wave, and I'm sure you're going to continue to crush it with, you know, the waves to come, and other things that you or I may do together. So
yeah, we're a pretty good team. You think it's worked out so far? I think we're a pretty good team.
I think someone would call us the Mega Powers, brother. Yeah.
Wish I could just put my hand right through the. Yeah, and we have to give some credit to Dan too. He's been doing a great job with the whole thing as well.
I would not. I mean, and that's the thing too, man. The power of a good team. You know, if there's anything I've learned in my career, it's just surround yourself with, you know, just genuine great people who really enjoy what they're doing, and God, your life will just be so much easier. I'm not kidding. I know it is funny, right? But it's like, it's true. It's really, really true. In my career, dude, like my path was not an easy one. It's still not an easy one. It's not linear by any means. I mean, you know, and I'm sure yours as well, right? We've all had these days where we question what the hell we're doing, right? Mm-hmm. Like, oh, let me just go get a job and just call it a day, right? Like, like I don't care what it is. I can't take this anymore. But no, what makes my life so much easier is having amazing team members that are always willing to jump in and lend a hand, regardless of their workload or whatever it may be, and just, you know, just having that talent, right? Like, you know, I'm not sure if you met Andrea, but Andrea on my team is amazing. Dan, amazing. Morgan, you haven't met, amazing. Like, you know, I have all these tremendous. I'm leaving so many people out, so I love you all.
Yeah,
everybody.
You're not accepting an Academy Award now.
Right, exactly. I wasn't prepared for this speech. I didn't prepare anything. Hang on a second. But no, honestly, the success that we have is really a byproduct of the sacrifices of not just myself, right? It's you got you, right? All the sacrifices that everybody has made on the team to push just, you know, really great product and really great experiences and brands, campaigns, etc. over the finish line, because I can't do it by myself. I've tried. I'm not gonna lie.
It's not. Yeah, it's not worth it, man.
We've all tried. We've all tried to, kind of, we've all had this inner struggle with the control freak within us, and any entrepreneur is going to have a control freak side of them, but the more you realize, the more you mature in your career, you're going to realize I'll never survive like that. You can't. You have to be able to delegate and be able to work with great people who are going to make your life easy. Like I said, in my career, I've worked with some really, not that they were terrible people, like, at their core, but they just they weren't good at playing with others in the sandbox.
Well, yeah, you've seen both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes back to like me talking about when I interview people, we look at character versus artwork, and it's just, you learn valuable lessons over the years. We're still in our prime.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about the lessons I have yet to learn,
Right.
down the line. Like I've learned a lot about gratitude. I've learned a lot about being humble. I've definitely learned a lot about the company you keep, and
Yeah.
I'm eternally grateful and thankful for everything. So you're a big part of that. Dan's a
Oh
big
man.
part of that. This has been a really fun ride so far, and the best part about it is it's just started,
We're just getting started, brother.
which is the crazy thing. Because I look at my iPad all the time, and I see the things that we've done and the things that are coming up, and I'm just like, I tell you what, and I haven't told you this before, but every time I start off, the first thing I see is the template. I just see the outline, and that outline is really just limitless possibilities.
Right.
And I look at the inside of that template and I just say to myself, man, think about all the things we can put in there,
Yep.
and all the possibilities and all the memories we can give people. And so it's
Exactly.
really, that's a very exciting thing. Is
Totally.
just, you got this puzzle piece, and you get to fill it in, and that's been a lot of the fun. And so yeah, it's been great, man.
We're only limited to our creativity.
Absolutely.
That's our only limit. How far could our creativity take us? Well, I think that's a great bookend. Nolan Harris, thank you so much for joining us today. I mean, wow, what an amazing conversation.
Yeah, man.
I'm sure we'll have you back. I'd love to have you back.
I was going to ask you about part 2.
Yeah. Well, dude, look, there's, as you mentioned, there's so much cool things we're working on. So we'll absolutely have you back. This has been so enlightening. I learned a lot about you today. I hope the people that are listening learned a lot, not just about you, but maybe, in some advice that they could kind of apply to their career or what have you. But hey, I just want to say, it's just such a pleasure to know you, and not only know you, but work with you. You've been one of the shining lights through this pandemic for me. No, seriously, because that's when we really got to connect. You're a tremendous talent, tremendous person. And we're only scratching the surface, man. I know it. I know we're gonna do some great things together. So stay tuned, folks. For what Nolan and I have in store together and on our own. That which would lead me to
Do I get to do some plugs?
Yeah, shout out some plugs. Shout it out.
I don't have to eat 10 hot wings to plug my stuff. That's great.
Hold on a second. Get the hot
What
sauce.
a relief. Let's see here. So if you want to learn more about my caricature business, go to our newly acquired URL, www.caricatures.com.
Whoa, you got that?
That's
I'm not
right.
even going to ask how much you guys paid for that.
I'm not going to tell you. So learn more about Over the Line Art at caricatures.com. And if you want to see more of what I do from a wrestling art standpoint, or just any type of pop art in particular, follow me on Instagram at Nolanium, Nolanium. I'm also on Twitter at the same handle. So lots of artwork there as well.
You're not going to shout out your TikTok, your newly formed TikTok that you're having so much fun with?
I don't even know what URL that is, but it is Nolanium_art on TikTok.
Okay.
And it's blowing up, baby.
I love it. I love that you're getting down with the millennials. They're not millennials at this point anymore, right?
There's Zennials. There's Zennials. I don't know what comes after Zennials.
I gotta up my TikTok game. I'm slacking on the TikTok.
It's not fun, but I'm doing it because that's part of the game, buddy.
Yes, it is. It is. Well, I think that wraps it up for us. Thank you so much again for joining us today on the Double Down podcast. Nolan has just been absolutely tremendous. I hope you've enjoyed the conversation that we had today. Once again, like, comment, subscribe, all those good things that they talk about. I don't know what they're talking about. Maybe I have a little idea. I'm just kidding. But thanks again for joining us. We'll see you on the next one. Until then, have a great one, guys. Talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.